Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for wrapping up JAM Europe. A couple more hours left, and then we'll all be done. Hope everyone's been enjoying the show so far. Yeah, some good content, some interesting, good chance to meet a lot of interesting people from not only from BlackBerry but from the development community too. Yeah, I love these events because sorry, let me introduce myself. I'm Adam Stanley. I'm actually from Canada. I'm the team lead of the BlackBerry Developer Relations team. My focus is on anything web, so HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, BlackBerry WebWorks, community frameworks like Sencha, among others, and even native apps that use embedded web views, so hybrid applications that are both native and web. My background was I was a developer prior to becoming a developer relations lead. So I spent 6 years or so building web content for the enterprise. And so that's my passion. So now I love talking to developers about helping them to make their content better, or just teaching them how to use some of the tools and features that are available on the BlackBerry platform. I'm delighted to be joined today by Elena. Do you mind introducing yourself, Elena?
I'm front-end developer from MailOnline team. So I'm working at MailOnline for exactly 4 years. And I was working on web site, which is now officially largest online newspaper in the world. 3 years ago, I was working on native iOS applications for iPhone and iPad. And last year, I was working on HTML5 application for BlackBerry. And it's exactly what we'll be talking today.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was asked just to share my experience, or our experience, using Sencha Touch to deliver in production code.
That's right, yeah. Elena and I have been working pretty closely over the last couple of months to help prepare the MailOnline application for launch. So last Wednesday, as part of the BlackBerry 10 launch, we featured certain premier vendors in the different cities where the product launched around the world. And MailOnline proudly was one of those vendors in London. And so our story today is not only to talk a bit more about the framework, than some of the fundamental pieces that went into building the app, but as Elena mentioned in detail, we're actually going to show you some details about the application itself.
We're ready to do a little demo.
Yeah.
Just a little introduction. What we so far developed. So probably from user experience point of view, and it's typical news application, we have multiple channels, and you can see you can swipe through different channels. Some channels articles are preloaded. You can see a full list of channels on the bottom, and you can choose and download. You can use pull refresh functionality, actually, to load data. You can go to article, obviously, and read full story. If you're interested, you can adjust your font size if you want. You want to see pictures if you wish. You can adjust pictures. You can go back to article. And another part of our application is obviously read the comments. So people not just reading our stories, they're commenting on them, and other people are commenting, are voting on other people's comments. So effectively, we have two-way streams. So editors prepare content, and readers participate and highly engaged to provide their own content. So, for example, our comments look like this. You can tap, and if you're registered, you can comment on specific article. And probably this is pretty much this feature which I wanted to show you. This is our share functionality. So as we were told yesterday, application should be beautiful, social, and integrated. And it's pretty much what this view demonstrates. We have another feature, again, swipe down event, which effectively it's just another view, but it looks like native application menu. And this is probably all what I wanted to show you on real device. And now back to
Okay. Can you switch me back?
Yes, please.
Thanks, Elena. So what I really like about that application is it has very distinct look and feel to it, but it also just how fluid it is and the performance and the quality of the content you're looking at. If you didn't know any better, most users would think that it was like a native application. Maybe some users might even be tricked that it could be a Cascades application. Some of the UI elements and controls that were built into the app, such as the context menu and the swipe down menu from the top, and so on, are very similar to some of the user interface and user experience guidelines that are published as part of our documentation. How much native code did you write as part of that application?
How much?
Native. How much C and C++ code did you write for that?
Before?
No. To build MailOnline.
No, it's
0.
just purely HTML5 application.
Everything's web. Everything's
yes,
just
everything
web.
web. Everything HTML, CSS3. So I will talk about technology, but yes, for web technologies.
Okay. So I mean, why we're able to build these great applications, not just Elena and the MailOnline folks, but all of us as developers, has to do with the strong web platform on BlackBerry 10. BlackBerry 10 Web is not just a browser. It's a fully featured, rich, powerful web platform, fundamentally driven by very strong support for standards. I'm sure folks have already run HTML5test.com, seen how well certain HTML5 features are supported, the high level of quality and rendering fidelity of content that's displayed in the browser. Very proud to say it's one of, if not the best, browsers out there on the market, not just for mobile, for desktop too. So it does outperform and outrender certain desktop browsers too, which is really nice. So that means us as developers, we can build more of the web. We can take advantage of more features, more standards, more content. Not just standards, but also certain proprietary things. So like the Flash, if anyone's a Flash developer and still wants to leverage any of that content, you can still use it because the platform supports Flash Player still, right? We want to give developers as many tools as possible to build awesome content. And when we bring these pretty powerful community frameworks into the mix, we further enhance what you can do with these standards by creating controls and UI elements and these features that you would use to build into an application, and putting them in a framework and making them easy to use. And we're quite fortunate that the folks at Sencha and other community framework developers, we have like the jQuery folks, Dojo, among many others, have expressed legitimate interest in improving their frameworks and their libraries such that they'll run great on BlackBerry 10 and provide BlackBerry users with as high quality experience as possible. If anyone attended the previous session, we had Ralph and Jason, who are team members of the jQuery Foundation. So their main goal is to make jQuery better for others. My team has been working very closely with Sencha, based out down in Mountain View in California, to provide feedback as to some of the updates to their libraries, to say this is how buttons should look on BlackBerry 10. So when you're building your theme, this is what we want you to do to make sure that developers have that experience. So we're all very tightly connected and closely in touch with each other to make it better. Of course, how this is all possible is thanks to WebKit. BlackBerry is powered by WebKit. And in fact, we're one of the leading contributors to WebKit. So our browser team actually was a former company called Torch Mobile. They were very big in the mobile browser development space, even the KDE development space, if there's any KDE developers out there. No? Okay. What that means is they're well-respected community leaders in terms of building a good web platform. They know what they're doing. They know how to fix bugs. They know how to improve stuff. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it in this amazing web platform. How the MailOnline application is created is through the BlackBerry 10 WebWorks framework. So for folks who don't know what WebWorks is, think of it as a native container for web content. The benefit is not only can you render the same content that you can see in a browser, but you can now also introduce native capabilities to your application. You can connect that web content with underlying native BlackBerry features, such as invocation into other core applications on the device, or even getting deeper into functionality, such as BlackBerry Messenger. You can't use BBM on a non-BBM device, right? Because it's not a standard. It's a platform-specific feature. It's very easy to do in WebWorks on BlackBerry 10, thanks to the APIs. Okay, just raise a hands. Who here is a Sencha developer already? A couple? Yeah? Okay, cool. Right on, thanks. Did you want to take this next session? Okay, good. So I just wanted to briefly cover what is the framework, why would you consider using it, like why is it so great? Because many people don't know. A lot of people get into web development for the first time by reading blogs or going to learning resource sites, and they're told, check out jQuery Mobile because other developers are doing that. It's a very popular one. Sencha provides a very focused, specific experience. They've built this framework from the ground up to deliver performance and quality, pixel perfect quality. The intent is that when controls are rendered, they're rendered perfectly. And the experience is consistent and it looks great, whether it's running on an iPhone or an Android or a BlackBerry, whichever device supports the platform. Their focus is performance, right? And not only that, but native look and feel. So there's theming built into it. And now, as I mentioned earlier, there's BlackBerry 10 theming built into it as well. I just saw this morning, Sencha published a blog announcing version 2.1.1 with the first introduction of actual BlackBerry 10 controls. So you can have BlackBerry 10 look and feel buttons, action bars, menu items, and so on. I'll show a few screenshots of that in a moment. But the idea is there's these really powerful UI components that you can leverage quite easily to make your application really awesome. Sencha originated as under a different name, ext.js, which was a really powerful JavaScript framework, which then evolved into a powerful HTML5 framework for building more robust, fully capable applications. This is a commercial product, that you need licenses and you got to actually pay some money to use. They recognize that web developers are more open, appreciate open source and collaboration with standards and so on. So Sencha Touch was introduced. This is a fully open source framework designed for touchscreen mobile devices. It was introduced for iPhone and then ported to other platforms that have touchscreen devices such as BlackBerry 10. Little did you know that not only is 10 supported, but also the playbooks or tablet, and it's even supported on the older BlackBerry smartphone, the Java platforms, which does have touchscreen support. And if you're interested in checking it out, I'd recommend checking out that website. There's also online examples of applications that they've published just to feature and demo the framework itself. There's a kitchen sink sample, of course, and then a few other more practical examples that could show you how to build apps. Like there's a mapping example, a bookstore, I think there is one now, and so on. Okay, some of the key features, like why you might even be interested in using this, are the following, right? So instead of forcing developers to reinvent the wheel or build certain features and functionalities such as dynamic loading of content, this is all baked into the framework itself. Some of the pillars and the cornerstones of Sencha Touch are things like using efficient JavaScript to access content and render it on the screen, right? And it's done smoothly, it's done asynchronously, so it doesn't block the UI. When you need to download an external resource, the framework does it for you, so you as a developer don't have to think about, oh yeah, I need to then go and grab this. The framework just makes it easy for you. It supports cross-site origin, so you can actually use Sencha to download like an RSS stream or an image from a different domain, and it manages that for you, which is really nice. Something that some developers take for granted or only discover halfway into their development cycle when they're like, oh, what does this error mean? The framework's already encountered that error. The developers know how to manage it correctly, and they've made it easy for developers to take advantage of that. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the UI components. I'll show you a few screenshots of those in a second. Major time saving there in that you don't have to build navigation views or data views or these objects that help you create really rich, highly functional content. It's already there. You just have to reuse them. Okay, so what some of these look like, are the following. Lists, very popular feature of any application or site. Often people throw together a bunch of divs or use the ordered list or unordered list, and then use CSS to style it. That can get messy very quickly, of course, as you need to manage your own theme and introduce your own handling. How do you handle good scrolling? Because we know scrolling is a pain point, certainly on many mobile devices, certainly those that don't support hardware acceleration, right, where you can have as low as like 20 frames per second as you're scrolling up there. And that's frustrating to deal with. In order to provide a rich, high 60 frame per second fluid performance, you need to bake these features into your code. You need to add overflow, touch, CSS properties, and enable hardware acceleration, and use CSS 3D transformations. Sencha does that for you already. It's already part of the framework. You as the developer just need to say, okay, give me a new list object, let's add some content to it and go. And it's already taken care of for you. There's more advanced control, so beyond just a basic vertical list of elements, there's support for these nested list objects. Very similar to, in concept, of course, to the BlackBerry 10, peak and flow, where you have content that slides on top of each other. You can combine and link these multiple lists together, so you have a hierarchy of page content effectively, right? So instead of like the traditional web model where you have one landing page where there's like 1,000 links on it and your users decide where they want to go, you can now design applications that have a more comfortable and appropriate scope, so that you're on the main page. Okay, you have 6 items or so to navigate to. All right, let's go. Let's learn about products. Go down the product workflow and so on and so on. Easily manageable with this nested list UI control. Forms. I think forms is something that you're going to show or talk about later on, because
Not much.
Not a little.
We're using for registration or login.
For login and registration, yeah. Yeah, so take your existing HTML forms and enhance them, give them a rich native look and feel easily through this framework. So you notice it does things like alignment and formatting and even managing input types, right? So if you have, if you want to provide non-text only input fields, you can target like the URL virtual keyboard or the numeric virtual keyboard. Give your users a better experience for providing you with quality data, and they will. Another thing it already bakes in for you is validation, right? So if you say, okay, here's a form field, it requires that numeric only content. If someone enters like alphanumeric, the framework provides developers with the ability to display error messages quite easily, and makes it really easy to manage. Of course, the tab panel, good way of managing lots of content is to show and hide quite easily. Developers, some can do that either with JavaScript or CSS, or they can just create this tab panel object and have that do it for you. Is there any, for folks who've used this, have you had any experience with limits as to how many tabs you can have going at one time? I saw a couple of hands over here. No way to overflow. But if you exceed, like, what's that, 4 or 5 or so, it'll just be hidden, right? Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay. So unlike other frameworks like BBUI, JS, or the jQuery mobile theme for BlackBerry 10, where if you add the 6th icon, it'll automatically create an overflow menu. Sencha proper touch framework does not do that. But our intentions in working with Sencha and their efforts to produce a BlackBerry 10 theme is that, yes, it will do that for BlackBerry 10 developers. So because that's the look and feel and the UI paradigm that we want them to follow. Okay, Carousel. So this is what's in the MailOnline application. Right. When we review the slides, this is what I want to talk about. So especially on touchscreens, swipe and gestures is a great user interaction model. It's not just about hyperlinks and button clicks to go back, forward, left, and right. It feels more comfortable sometimes to swipe left to go to the next page or next view. The Carousel object is a great way to manage that quite easily, and the MailOnline app does use this. And finally, navigation view. So yeah, this is simply like a stack, pushing and popping these containers of content in a manageable way. Okay. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So just a preview of what some of these standard controls are now looking like under this BlackBerry 10 theme. As you can see, the colors certainly have changed. The positioning of content has changed. The size and display has also changed to follow the very structured BlackBerry 10 UI guidelines that our design team has laid out. And this isn't just for Sencha, this is for all developers. So if you're interested in the theory behind why is this font used, and why is this the location of where you go for the next page content, it's in reference to these UI guidelines. This is the current view of the action bar, themed according to Sencha. So I've already escalated this. It shouldn't look like this. I think it should look more like the actual native, like the Cascades action bar. So I've sent that back saying, just point of feedback, let's correct this. But as you can see, we're making great progress. Like, it's getting there. Just a matter of time before we actually have the Sencha theme looking and feeling exactly like a native application. So I can't wait to see that. And of course, they've taken their standard controls, right, such as the selection scrolling list, right, and lists, and just themed them correctly so that it has the right colors. It has sort of this BlackBerry 10 easy way to scroll among long lists of data. And so yeah, I think I didn't include the link on here because it was a new link, but I'd certainly recommend looking up that Sencha blog. It was literally published this morning for more screenshots and information from their developers about the background behind that. Okay, so that's it for the framework. I think now I'd like to hand it over to Elena, who will go deeper into the actual application. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Pointer if you need it.
Yes, excellent. So, I will start with a very brief introduction what MailOnline is. At current stage, we consider it as the world's most visited online newspaper. Our website is based on Daily Mail and MailOnline printed edition, but online version obviously it's much bigger. We have special editorials team, one in UK and one in US, and they provide content approximately up to 800 stories per day. Subjects are absolutely different. It's news, sport, showbiz, and much more. Mania, you can see travel, list of channels sort of described, scope of stories which we're providing. Content is free and will stay free. It's policy of the newspaper. Each article is generously illustrated by images. If editorials want to put 10 images, they are free to do. If they want to put 100 images, again, website cope with this stuff. Our mobile application should cope as well. Content has global appeal. We have US homepage and showbiz. We have UK homepage and showbiz. We have India homepage. So yes, English-speaking community all around the world reading our newspaper. And as I mentioned, our readers have opportunity to be involved in creating content as well. They can vote and they can comment on every article. So currently, we deliver our content on following platforms. And of course, on the top of the list, it's web. And you can see we had 114 million unique visitors in December. It's a record number. We have presence on iOS devices, and starting from 2010, 11, and 12, we covered all range of devices. We have Android platform, and now we are on BlackBerry. And if you can see from this slide, you see we have web, and then we went native, and now we are HTML5. And I want to talk about this a little bit more. But to be honest, it doesn't matter which technology which we are using. Our application or our readers should have full-featured news application. What does it mean? It means that all channels, full stories, high-resolution images, comments, offline reading. If you don't have connection, if you're on train, you still should be able to read news. You loaded news in the morning, you're reading them. At the same time, we're quite cautious about brand. We we're transferring our brand to different mobile platforms, but at the same time, we want to provide experience which users used to have on specific device. So it's mainly about translating brand to specific mobile devices. At the same time, we have extra tasks. For example, we need to provide our editorial teams with data. We need to collect some analytics and to serve our readers better. I told our content is free, but commercial team wants to have some advantage of this, so we need to serve ads. And from technical point of view, we are ready to go portable. So it's really quite expensive, each new device or each new platform, it's native application, it's effectively time and money how you want to invest, to deliver to another platform. So this time we decided to go HTML5 to provide portable solution. Why we choose Sencha Touch? First of all, we're quite familiar with Sencha products already. So for more than 4 years, we're using different products in our company. We're using XJS3 and 4 and 4.1 to create our content management system. And so for us, it was sort of obvious choice, I would say. And again, to be honest, I looked at Sencha Touch in 2010. It was probably first beta version. And at this point, we sort of declined it. But now I believe it's quite ready. So Sencha provides excellent documentation, API reference guides, code sample, fantastic. Support to our satisfaction. When I'm talking about support, if you find some bugs on framework, they are fixing it quite quick, and what we need. And main reason, of course, why we choose, because it provides technology and tools to build mobile application. And probably one of the most important feature which Sencha Touch provides is so-called device profiles. And effectively, what it allows you to do, you can deliver different, not just different look, but different experience to different platforms. And at the same time, you will use the same code base. You can share your code. So from development point of view, it's quite valuable feature. Sencha provides you good platform or device detection. If you need to do something more, of course, you can check user agent, you can check screen sizes, you can check resolution. But to be honest, basic stuff which framework provides, it's quite good. And when we started to design our application, we came up with 3 profiles. First one for tablet, I would call it full-featured application. And second profile is phone. Whatever you saw today, it's reduced version of tablet profile, because tablet profile catering for bigger screen. And effectively, we are not showing on phone, we're not showing and we're not loading extra view or extra layer when you can see channels in a little bit different format. And third profile, it's specifically done for BlackBerry 10. Effectively, it extends phone profile, but adds native features and native look. Another important feature is how you handle data, because everything should be loaded, articles, channels, pictures, So data processing is quite important. Sencha data package is about models, stores, and proxies. And MailOnline is using data, obviously, in the same way. We're supporting separate models for channel, article. We have related articles. We have comments. We have preferences. Preference, for example, if I told you if user increased phone, we want to remember it, Next time when you go back to application, you should not do it again, obviously. And for analytics, we're using stores, one for each item, model above. And proxies, we're using JSONP and we're using WebSQL. WebSQL, we're using to persist data, because I told that one of our requirements was to provide offline reading. So if you are not online, you should be able to store channels or articles, and you should be able to read it. So, but we don't persist all data. For example, channel articles we persist, related article we are not. Comments again, comments changing so quickly, so no point to sort of store them. Each time when you connect it, you load in a new bunch of comments. But analytics we do, because when you're offline, obviously we still want to collect some data and feed it back. How we rendering data? Adam mentioned all sorts of standard components which Sencha provide, and to be honest, we're using probably all of them. We're using components, containers, and layout system, which framework offers. And if you look at channel page, when you swipe, it's carousel. Each carousel consists of individual item, which is list view. On the bottom, you have toolbar, which is another data view. So effectively, we have carousel with data view, which is docked in the bottom. Each item is list view with header, which is docked on the top. And list view provide us another interesting feature. It's pull and refresh plugin, which we're using, and it comes from framework as well. We just styled it up to our design. And yes, this is again something I quite like to talk about. It's about history routing and deep linking. What is it about? It's effectively how you design navigation through your different views. And very often when people start the mobile application, they think in terms of navigation view, and you sort of press button, go to next level, down, and then you should pop up. But effectively, if you start thinking that you can invoke any view from any point, and consider your one-page application as an application which you can sort of link to different just paths, it's become quite interesting. And back button is working now. History support, it's mainly about routes. And I listed here examples how we're using. For example, each channel just could be referred by its short name. You can go to specific article on channel by article ID. You can go to comments, images, or even you are on related articles. Again, you still go, it's channel article, it's related article, and it's related article now. And another interesting feature is history change event. And as soon as you start to change location, you can obviously make use of history change event, which is I will be talking about a little bit later. And this is how it's implemented. So to be fair, we are not using navigation view control, which Sencha provides. We implemented something very simple, which based on specific route just shows view which you choose to link to. So this is channels. You tap on any article. For example, you tap on first article, you open article. From article, you can tap on comment button, or you can tap on image icon, and you will go to view down. So if in any of these points you want to swipe down and see settings, for example, doesn't matter, because we'll just link to settings route, and settings will appear. And next slide will show how you can actually code it. And routes are part of configuration of your controller. And this is fragment of our article view controller. And you can see this is channel, this is article ID, simple regular expression which helps you to define rules. And then you're telling, OK, if we're on this route, show article by ID. If you are on this route, show a related article ID. And whatever you're doing behind scenes is different. If it's just normal article, you go to your store and show article. If it's related article, you need to go to server load related article and then show. Yes, so 3 features which I wanted to mention. It's about framework. Now, how you want to enrich your mobile application with native features. And effectively, it's about how to use native BlackBerry APIs. Apparently, it's quite simple. What you need to do, you need to include in your page just script tag, which points to webworks.js. You need to specify your features in configuration document, and obviously you need to package. So this is fragment of our config XML, where I'm just listing all native features which we are using. It's application system, invoke, identity, and cover. And next slide will show how they're used. For example, to imitate application menu, we're using native swipe down event. And from Sencha point of view, it's just model view, nothing else. It's just styled to look like native application menu. Yes, we're using Invoke Object to implement share functionality. Effectively, you can request which application on your device could do share and just lead them and provide functionality. You can modify application window. You see, it doesn't matter when you stop your application comments or article. When you minify your application, it takes view from channel view, and it looks like really newspaper cover, which is what we wanted to achieve. And obviously, some system data you can grab just to provide for analytics, for example, like our OS version or something like this, which could be useful in the future. And this is how we implemented phone article share view for phone BB10 profile. And I especially put it as a part of documentation because I mentioned that Sencha provides very good documentation, but moreover, you can generate your own documentation. And this is effectively part of documentation of our code. You have Sencha namespace here, and then you can see our code here. You can see how its namespace is created and where phone BB10, where profiles come to play. And effectively, it's very useful. You can see all how everything's subclassed. And you can see that this share view, we inherited from cross-cut component, which Sencha provides. And this lives in our view hierarchy. Another 2 pieces of information I quite like to show you. This CSS variables and mix in. I will be talking about a little bit later, but I want you to sort of make note of it. And this is how we configure our view. It's quite simple. We're telling that we're extending Sencha cross-cut component. We will use record property to load article because obviously we will share a particular article. And then we have listener. One of them will request targets, sort of other application which you can share on show. And this control just shows what to do on top when you populated your view. And now I want to pass it back to Adam because it's something which he knows much better.
Yeah, okay.
But this is part of our code, obviously.
Okay, are we back on? Yeah, we are. So once the application or the framework knows what content to target, and knowing that, okay, I want to share this article, this specific article, how does it get that out to the system? Well, it does so with the invocation framework. Has anyone used this yet so far? Invoke? Yeah, a couple? It's pretty amazing, isn't it? It's quite powerful what you can do. So it's designed to allow you to target specific applications on the device. So you could say, send this piece of data to the browser or to BBM or so on. But then there's also this really interesting feature which we can query. You can say, get me a list of all target applications out there that can handle this type of content. And so MailOnline is based on the application. It's looking for this MIME type, the target type. So these are matches that the system is looking for. It's feeding this into this framework, and it's getting back a list of applications. And so when you open up the Share button in MailOnline, you now see the list of, we got Facebook, we have Twitter, BBM, among others. And the really interesting thing is when more applications are added to the device, like say tomorrow there's amazing app XYZ that just happens to handle this content type, it's automatically going to show up in the MailOnline app because that user who has both those applications installed wants to be able to share this information. And it's able to leverage this through this powerful Invoke framework. This is a BlackBerry specific feature. This is obviously JavaScript, so the ability to use this is implemented through the WebWorks SDK. Right? This code would not work in the browser. The browser doesn't know what BlackBerry.invoke is, only WebWorks does. And so that's why it's, in order to achieve this functionality, we need to use WebWorks. Did I have one more? Can you move me ahead to one? Oh, okay. And yes. So here's the
another method on Invoke Object. Effectively, when you invoke, when you populated tabs, buttons, and then what happened when you tap on specific button?
Yeah. So the button that you're touching, it's getting its item ID from that. The URI is coming through the MailOnline framework, where remember we're replacing the regular expression with the URL that's bound to it in the, is it the channel, did you say?
It's just an article, yes.
Just an article, yeah. So as you can see, this is a very flexible, scalable, reusable piece of code here. This is just a JavaScript function that calls Invoke and passes it in some dynamic content. So this can be reused throughout the app just to bind targets to buttons, to other features, you know, and it scales nicely. Is there anything else you want to add to that before I'm done?
Probably that's all.
Okay, thank you.
So yes, what we were talking about, it was native features or native functionality. Now how to make it look native. And it's quite interesting because I quite like to talk about SAS and SCSS. And Sencha Touch uses this technology for its own product. And to be honest, it's no reason not to use it when you start to develop your own application. And I found it's quite interesting, and I never used it before, so Sencha Touch sort of encouraged me to do it, and I'm very glad we did it. But effectively, what it offers you can extend your CSS tree with some extra rules, variables, mixing, and so on. For example, if you want to use Sencha Touch default theme, but you want just a little bit adjust, you can look on class per class base and see which variables or which mix-in are available to do it. And very often you can override default values. But of course you can do your own theming and styling. And what we done to implement our application, I created BlackBerry 10 theme by my own. And this is a little example how, for example, I can use it to style share view, which we were talking about before. And what is interesting here, this if controller, for example, or if directive. For example, if I want to build my application for iOS device, I don't need this code. So what's the point to bundle all code together and ship whatever you never will use? So theming allow you to some extent to optimize whatever you shipping when you deploy it on specific device. And this is an interesting way to use variables, for example. If you look at BlackBerry UI guide, you will probably find this name of the colors. Effectively, it's just colors and numbers. But I defined it once in variable as CSS file, for example, and then I just using variable's name. And it's interesting again because Sencha changed UI guide a few times in December. So for us, it was quite easy, just get new sort of guidelines, change in one place color, and everything works. So in terms of maintenance, of course, it is quite valuable. But as every web technology, you should be conscious because, using SAS, you can generate quite massive CSS. So be careful and always think about sizes, about how many level of inheritance you are using, and so on. But it's normal web optimization, whatever you're supposed to do. And this is probably last thing which I wanted to talk about, because I thought we need to provide analytics, and we need to provide ads. And it's not obvious what technology you should use. Currently, no sort of direct guidelines. So our position was, okay, by the end of the day, it's web page. Why not to use the same technology which we are using on our website? And for example, for ads, we started to use Google Publisher Tag API. The only difference when you're using on normal or traditional web, of course, what happened? You load page, you initiate your ad slots. Ad slots get send requests and fill in with appropriate ad. Now, when you have one page application, how you can manage it? Apparently, it's happened to be quite easy because our application has just one ad slot. And each time, for example, when you swipe article, it could be retargeted. Currently, we're targeting per channel. For example, if you're still browsing within one channel, target's still the same, but you can refresh ad. So you swipe to next article, ad slot gets refreshed, and new ad is loaded. And it looks like it's working well. So our commercial team is quite happy now. It's a big task how we're targeting because it's geo-targeted. So currently, when you view in here, you are not seeing ads because we're not targeting Netherlands yet. But in UK, you will see. And analytics, again, we started just to use Omniture or whatever site catalyst code which we are normally using on website. And we just tracking page impression on history change event, which I mentioned when I was talking about history routing and so on. And last point is about performance issues. So far, so good. We managed to achieve sort of performance, and our publisher is happy with performance, which is quite important. Of course, if you need to upgrade to latest version of framework. If you're on previous version, don't try to fix anything like, I know some people still on 1.0. It's no way. Just move to new framework, and framework done quite a lot for you. So this is first step which people should consider. Obviously, optimize number of views. As I told, device profiles are quite helpful. If you have small device and you have no space to show bigger view, just don't load it at all. And framework allows you to do it. Not just hide, just don't load it. Deep linking is quite interesting. Yes, you can link through different parts of your controller, but what we found quite interesting, when you have like list, and for example, each article originally was implemented as a tag, and we thought, okay, it will help with responsiveness application. Apparently, it has a little bit problem because, when you are loading data, initiate each link again and again and again, it takes time. So use just native components which Sencha provide to do, and it's my advice to you. Yes, different profiles, it's just way how you develop your application. You just structure in a way that you can use different components or different small sort of pieces in different layouts, and just share code as much as possible. And same in yes, it just minifying your bar file, sorry. And all other sort of obvious technique like lazy loading. If you have long list and each list item has image, just load when people really want to see them. And this is all from me. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank you. So this is bringing us to the end of the content piece of this presentation. We're about to turn it over for Q&A, but I did want to just highlight a few other sessions that might be of interest to you if you found this session valuable. Of course, this is the afternoon of the last day, so these sessions may have already occurred, but we are going to publish everything online after the event as part of the DevCon On Demand portal. So all the breakout sessions have been recorded, all the labs have resources and sample code and stuff. It's all going to be published. Check out these sessions, I think you'll like them. And a couple of Sencha-related resources. So I mentioned we're working closely with Sencha. In that, we've produced our own porting guide. So if you've already created a Sencha app and you're interested in how to get the best experience in BlackBerry 10, I'd recommend checking out the porting guide. Okay, so with that, yes, a couple of reminders, please. I think you've probably seen this 100 times already so far today. If you haven't, I'll leave it up there for your benefit. But I think at this point, if there are any questions, we have a microphone that will be passed around, and we'd love to hear from you. So, any questions? Who has the first question? Yeah? We good? Nothing?
Like you want.
I won't force anyone. Going once? Twice? I think everyone wants coffee. Oh, there we are.
Not especially to Sencha, but the Invoke.
Mm-hmm.
Is it also possible to register a web app as an Invoke handler?
Yes, so you can register yourself as a listener, so for invoking commands. There is a good example on GitHub that we've published for NFC. So how NFC is handled on BlackBerry 10 is that the system reads the tag and sends a command out to any application that's listening. So your WebWorks app would say, okay, I'm listening for an NFC commands when they come. Here's the piece of code that's going to run. It's going to handle it. So there's two ways. There's in and out. Good question. Thank you. One over here to the right.
Thank you. I was wondering if there was a reason to use WebSQL on the application. I've noticed it was on your slides.
Yes.
Because there is a native component for local storage in Sencha. You can use it easily, and I thought WebSQL is deprecated in the HTML5 specification. So.
It's an interesting question. To be honest, we try to find solution to store data, because you see if people start application, they've done something, and then close the application, we obviously want to keep this data. So WebSQL sort of came as sort of natural. We didn't question it much. Yes, but it's quite interesting because, for example, we have another challenge to do. Currently, we cache as sort of storing, persist data. But for example, next task for us, for example, if you already loaded image and you close your application, and then open again, effectively, Sencha would, or not Sencha, this application will load this image again. So to store, for example, images as a file, this is next challenge which we probably will look at, and yes.
Maybe if there's IndexedDB we can use, but
yes, exactly. So
So Sencha Touch, we use WebSQL in 2.1 as an alternative to local storage. First of all, because IndexedDB is not implemented on any device yet, so it's great that there's all these new specifications, but WebSQL is actually supported on all Android, iOS, and BlackBerry devices. So we don't care if a specification is deprecated. If it's available to us on all devices, it's something that we're gonna be using, and the reason why you would want to use WebSQL over, for example, local storage is really key value storage, and that we build like a layer on top of that to actually store more complex data in that key value system. But WebSQL lends itself much better to actually storing complex and lots of data. So yeah.
Effectively, we store tables, you know, like SQL tables for channels, articles, and so on. And yes, and another point which I wanted to make, you know, obviously I try to package this application for different devices. I packaged for iOS, I packaged for Android, and everything is working. It's working as a normal web application. I'm not showing you a link because it's out of public domain, but you know, you can just look through just on your desktop and you will see this application fully working, and WebSQL still working, so yes, thank you.
How do you store images in application for offline using?
We're not storing it, what I mentioned, it's a challenge which sort of we consider for next version. So for offline reading, we're storing just data, articles as such, channels and articles, but not images yet. On iOS devices, we're storing images as a file in your sandbox. You know, we need to come up with something like this.
We got just a minute or two left. Is there one last question before we wrap it up? No takers? Okay. All right, well then thank you everyone for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks for coming out.